someone threw a football and hit me square between the eyes. And I looked up to see who threw this football at me. And I didn't see a football on the ground, and I didn't see anybody around me. I'm like, what is going on?
I used to ride my bike to the bus stop so I could go to work. And I was coming home one time and I looked down and all of a sudden there's like this green slime everywhere. And I'm like, come on, like who's shooting paintballs at me, right? And so I get home and I tell my wife, I was like, somebody's shooting paintballs at me or something, because we're right by this school, you know, it's kids.
What is up, everybody? And welcome back to the Schooling Struggle Podcast. For this episode, Todd is running the show here, and I asked him to pick a topic and to let me know right when we sign on so I can be fired up and learn what we're going to talk about. So I have no idea what the content is for tonight, and I want to learn. But before we get that information, I'm curious to know what's going on in the Seattle area. What's up, Todd?
What's up, Peter? How are you? Doing good?
I'm doing really well. Thank you.
Fantastic. Glad to hear it. Hope you had a good holiday. Full of cheer.
I did have a good holiday. Yeah, it's really, really cool to have the holiday with a 6-year-old in the house. It sounds so cheesy, but it's so true. It is really magical.
Yeah, everything's shiny and new for 6-year-olds.
However, I will tell you that the routine before I come down here and chat with you every Monday evening is to put my daughter the whole bedtime routine. And tonight I bent down to kiss her to say goodnight, and she was putting something in her closet, and she opened the closet door as I bent down to kiss her, and she just whacked me so hard in the jaw with the closet door. And like immediately after, I got the hiccups. I've never been hit so hard in the jaw that I got the hiccups. So I'm walking down here to record with you, and I'm thinking, holy crap, my jaw kills and I got the hiccups. How is this going to go? So let's do it. How you doing? I see a little snow out the window in the background.
I'm doing good.
There.
We got all told so far maybe 5 inches of snow, which is not typical for my area of the country. And so people are just, I live in a pretty crazy neighborhood overall. And people are, just constantly drifting, through stop signs and down the road. They think it's just the best thing ever. So, and this went on all night long. I went for a walk this morning at 5:45 in the morning, and there were still people out acting like hooligans, just drifting corner because they didn't plow. It's been overwhelmed. Like there's no plow action here. like before it snows, the plows are out, and you're like, "What are you doing?" And then that's how it ends up. So the ice is the road is just compact ice and snow now, which you're probably used to. But it's a winter playground for people around here. So
yeah, welcome to Vermont, brother.
Yeah, as the listeners probably know, we're getting ready to go snowboarding in Oregon, leaving tomorrow, and I think that'll be fun. And yeah, that's what's going on over here.
Get it?
Yeah.
So what is going on tonight?
Yeah, episode 7.
Here it comes. I totally cut you off because I'm fired up. What do we got?
Nope, it's fine. I was thinking about it. I've been listening to some of our past podcasts just to get some nuggets, and I find myself with this growing list of questions and growing list of curiosities for you. So I think we're going to call this the repeat podcast today. I wrote up a little format here, so I think it's going to be interesting to see because I've narrowed in on some struggles and some potential learnings. So I think that we can sprinkle those in along the way. But I have 7 topics, 7 themes. So I'm gonna allow you to pick a number, and we're gonna start there.
You are so prepared.
Yeah.
Kind of reminds me of one of my favorite cliches out of the thousands that I love, and that is failing to prepare is preparing to fail. So this episode cannot fail because you are so prepared. But I have no clue what's going on.
Yeah. So choose a number between 1 and 7.
I was number 6 back in the day on my soccer team, so I'm going to go with that.
Well, good. It was 1 and 6, so you picked 6, so that's great. I didn't count them. See, prepared. Oh, this one's interesting. I labeled it forward preparation. I've heard you talk a few times about when something bad is coming and how you're going to carry yourself through those things, or how you're interested in how you'll approach those or how those will land for you. So I wonder, because you look forward at that or towards that, and you can, if you don't, then just tell me you don't, and that's fine. It's just something I picked up. What is the lesson you draw from that? Or is there some sort of preparedness that you try to, forge in your mind? Like, when it happens, I'm going to know, and this is it. And I'm going to recount all these things and hopefully try to be strong through those.
Hmm. So, one thing that my wife and I talk about often, and that I'm trying to really digest, is that there is no good or bad in this world. There just is. So, I can't say that I look forward to quote unquote bad things happening. I look forward to really blissful and enjoyable times. Hopefully, that are going to be rolling my way in the future. But I do believe in preparedness of some kind. And the first time that I recognize this is with fitness and with CrossFit. And they call the GPP, the general physical preparedness. And we do fitness to prepare for life. And I believe that it's not just a fun thing to do because it feels good in the moment. It's we are preparing our body, and then what I later learned was also preparing our minds through the fitness experience to be equipped for when struggle comes our way. And that kind of led me to believe, like, actually, it's funny what I just said to you about that cliche about preparing for anything. And I believe that as we kind of make our way through this life, that being prepared for stuff or when it hits the fan helps us navigate those times. And this entire podcast is about schooling struggle, right? And what I think is embracing the struggle versus just running away from it. And I have a hat that I wear often that says "Into the Storm," and I learned that a herd of bison went on the plains as a storm approaches, instead of sitting tight and letting the storm roll over or even running away from the storm, the bison turn and run into the storm. Because if they can move through the storm, they come out on the other side faster and less disturbed or less disrupted from this quote unquote bad thing or this challenge that's happening. So how can I use that metaphor of the bison in my own life to kind of dig into the challenge or the obstacle versus running away from it? And I'd love to say that I do that all the time and I'm very successful in that regard. I'm absolutely not. I have a ton to learn and a ton to do with that. But I do think that in some form of physical and mental preparation to prepare for whatever obstacles may come is a good way to live our lives.
That's well said.
So what are your thoughts and perspectives on that?
And of course, I didn't I didn't prep by thinking about these myself. Um, I know that the place that I learn the best is near those struggles. So or near those. I use my feelings kind of like a metal detector. Like when I can feel an emotion in my gut, or I can feel like the hair raise on the back of my neck, I know I'm getting close to something. If it's, I mean, if I'm not about to be eaten by a saber-toothed tiger, then I know that there's something there that can teach me a lesson or something that I can draw from. And so I tend to use that as a marker to lean in a bit or be a bit more explorative about what's going on in order to hopefully find that thing. Now, it doesn't always work, like you said. It's very easy to be deterred by, especially like in the face of difficulty, or I find that the more people that are around, like if it's a family struggle, if there's more people involved in that thing, it's very difficult to be in that pause, right? To stop and then look around and consider not only yourself, but then you have to consider multiple people's intentions and all of these things. But yeah, I'm the same. I'm the same in that going through. I've never heard that bison, but I think that that's very cool because if you're able to go through something, you know, you're going to be able to learn from what it has. And so, yeah, I believe that. I don't as far as focusing on bad things, I don't tend to do that too much, but I know I do get caught up a lot in like rumination. Like something will irritate me, and then I'll like it. Things will just build on top of that until finally I'm like, okay, this has gone way too far. Where did this start? And so I have this ability to go back and look, like where did that start? Most of the time, like did it start today? Hopefully I can catch it today. Did it start a couple of days ago? Hopefully it hasn't gone that long. And the more that I do practice, the shorter that duration gets. So it's not that I look for bad things, but and I think I've shared this with you before, what I've started doing is starting my day with gratitude to diffuse that from happening. So even if I wake up in a terribly like if I went to bed in a bad mood, which is something I'm trying not to ever do again, but if I do and I wake up and the first thought in my head is like, oh man, you went to bed with this thing. Immediately, much like this morning when when I texted you, I was like, I got to hit somebody with some gratitude. And so it's like it's weird to have to look for something to do that. I wish I could do it a bit better myself, but I found that pulls me through. So yeah,
Yeah, that's interesting. I think when it comes to any struggle, is really having a true grasp with an understanding of what we have control over and what we don't. Right. And one thing that I've noticed in putting so much time and energy into trying to get better at that is I start to recognize the amount of energy that people put into stuff that they do not have control over. And the hard part for me as a teacher is I don't want to be the jerk teacher that's saying, you know, you come into class and you're all bent out of shape because it's raining outside. That's outside of your control. And like come down hard on anyone for not having that mindset. But like, how can I help people start to recognize, yeah, we don't have control over the weather, but what do we have control over when it is raining outside? That's just one small example. But I think in equipping or preparing our mind and our body for what's to come in life, or trying to equip ourselves, that firm understanding of what we have control over and what we don't, is something to be chasing. You know, I think I've shared in the past, my goal is to live, love, learn, and lead with a strong body, a healthy mind, and a grateful spirit. And if I can do those things, I feel like I'm equipped for what might come my way.
that's awesome. Do you keep those things in the like? Do you have those on your bathroom mirror? Like, how do you remember that, or how do you keep that in the foreground of? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
especially in difficult times. Like, how do you like? Oh,
I have that written. I have that written in places.
Yeah.
Actually, I think I might be the only teacher in the school with an old school blackboard still.
Nice.
Like with chalk.
Yeah.
I won't let them get rid of it because it's written on that.
No way. That's pretty awesome. I used to clean erasers as a kid. That was my behavioral fix. I digress. I'm just going to pick another one. I'm going to pick running because that's something I'm going to get back to pretty soon. You mentioned, I think in the last story, part 1 or part 2 of your story, that you used to, you focused on 5Ks for a while as your fitness goal. Maybe I'm wrong with that. Why 5K?
So the length of 5K, just over 3 miles, is just long of a length of time or distance that I can do what I call a crush run. And I'm just riding that line. If I go any faster, I'm going to crush myself. And if I go any slower, I don't feel like I gave everything that I had. So that distance is a perfect distance for what I call a crush run. And my genetics lend themselves to kind of like non-heavy load activities. So just getting out and running, like my fighting weight, if I were to not be eating a lot of protein, lifting heavy weights, would be around 155 pounds. That's just where my body wants to settle at. And I carry at about 180 right now because the weightlifting and all the protein that I eat. And it's really, really hard for me to keep and keep muscle mass on. But man, naturally, I just love to get out and run, and that intensity of just really emptying the tank and that distance is a really, really cool feeling for me. I do love the pleasure and the pain of that distance. And I just set a goal at one time, like, I want to run a sub 18 and a half 5K. And that was my goal for a while. And I was able to do that in one race, which was awesome. But
is this in your adult life, or is this when you were a kid?
Yeah, this is my adult life. So when I moved to Vietnam, there was no access to any type of weightlifting. So I jumped a lot of rope. I ran a lot, and I did a lot of calisthenics. And when I got back from that year in Vietnam, I was back down to 155. Probably 175 when I left. I just was like, all right, well, this is a good time for me to chase that 18 and a half that I've always wanted. And I went for it, and I just kind of put my focus in it. And I didn't really know what I was doing. I didn't know a lot of training methodologies for running 5Ks other than just get out and freaking run as hard as I could. Mm-hmm. And I think the real reason why I love running 5Ks is because it's an opportunity to just dig in on a singular focus. Everything else shuts off. Any issues or worries or anxieties that I have completely disappear as I dial in and focus solely on the physical. And the pain that is in my legs and is in my lungs and feeling like my body's on fire is physically uncomfortable, but my mind is so clear and comfortable at that time because I'm going all in on this one thing, and that is to run as fast as I can while trying to trying not to pass out really or fall down. So I often tell my students that we all have messes in our life. We all have things that we're dealing with. We all have obstacles. We all have struggles. But if we can go all in on a singular focus, for me, it's exercise, intense exercise, and we get away from the mess mentally for a little bit, when we get back to that mess after the workout, for me, it just seems a little less messier. And I think that's what the 5K is for me, is it's a singular focus to get away from all the stuff that's heavy on my mind. And yeah, it may be heavy on my body, and it may be only be for 18, 19, 20 minutes. But that break from all the stuff that's happening in my mental world is a really, really nice respite from my thoughts. And when I come back to my thoughts, I'm in a much better place with my mindset. I think that is why I love running a 5K. Emptying my tank physically so that when I get back to the mental stuff, I can deal with it in a much more proactive, responsive way.
I had some points down here. Do you still run? Like if you get a chance?
Yeah, I'd love to run. I did myself in pretty well actually almost exactly a year ago. I tore up all the muscles and tendons in my abdomen and my groin, and I didn't think it was that bad of an injury, and I trained through it, and it just got worse and worse and worse. And by March, I was not able to do anything, so I had to take a lot of time off. It was a real mental challenge for me in many, many ways. And now I'm starting to be able to do some things that I haven't been able to do in the last year, running being one of them. So it'll be a slow progression back, but I always want running to be a part of my fitness regimen.
Awesome. And I know from the past that you played with Spartan races as well. I think that was in the same episode. I'm curious to know the difference between, I know there's different distances of Spartans, but I imagine you did all the Spartans, not just whatever the 5K one is. But you I guess, I don't know. I guess they're way different, right? Because you run hard and then you do an obstacle and then you run hard and you do an obstacle. So there's more of a grind.
But yeah, for my skill set, for my innate skill set, Spartan race is like the magic elixir for me. So if I was going to like get really serious about it, competing in anything, Spartan races would be probably my bread and butter. When I first started thinking about possibly competing in a Spartan race, I signed up for the big one, the Beast, which is 13 and a half miles. And Spartan races were actually invented in Vermont. And the guy who owns it had the Spartan World Championships at Killington, which is the biggest ski resort in Vermont, the year that I did it. And I think in my category, there was something like 2,500 dudes. And I trained for it, not really knowing exactly what it was, but I figured if it was going to be a 5-hour race, I'd have to do some 5-hour sessions. And I love running and training on hills. So, and there's a lot, you ascend the peak of Killington 3 times over the course of the race. And it just went well for me. I think I got 32nd in that race.
Yeah.
It went well. And I was like, oh, this Spartan thing is really cool. But one thing I come to learn is that for me, they're just over commercialized, and there's just like tons of people and you're waiting in line at an obstacle. And it's just like, and then I did the stadium series in Fenway Park, and you're running through like the locker rooms and stuff, which is kind of cool if you're, like a baseball fan. But what I've come to learn about Spartan races is I get the most out of them when I do it with someone and it's their first time, and I pull them through. So I brought students with me to Spartan races. I did one with my brother. I cannot talk my wife Jen into doing one because of the mud, but I think that if I pull LJ in, LJ did her first Spartan race this past fall as a 6-year-old, and she loved it. So I think in like 2 years, when I can get LJ on the adult course, I think Jen will join us.
Nice. That's pretty cool. Yeah, it's fun to watch people glow. I do the same thing, but in different ways. Not Spartan races, but if it had to be a Spartan race, I would do it. But yeah, that's really cool.
I switched to focusing CrossFit because my daughter was born, and I could have her in the swing next to me, and I could do workouts in the garage or in the basement and be present with her, whereas I can't go on a 5-hour run through the hills of Vermont with an infant.
No,
I guess I could. It's a little
it would be different.
Sandbag. Yeah.
yeah, it would be different.
Have you ever done a Spartan race?
I've done
or obstacle course race?
yeah, I've done multiple. I've done the I did do the beast. I did the beast, and then I've done a tough mudder, which is complete nonsense because you get shocked. Like, what are we doing? Like, why are we shocking people? It just adds a different layer of
Yeah.
ridiculousness to it. But I do remember the end of this. At the end of the tough mudder, I did it first, and I was running with somebody, ironically from CrossFit. It's our owner's son, and we got to the end, and I don't know if you've ever done a tough mudder race, but at the end it's like they call them the tentacles, I think, and it's just a bunch of wire fences basically,
Yeah.
like hanging down in this, you have to run this gauntlet and hopefully you don't get shocked. And so I'm like, all right, you ready? And so I start sprinting through this thing, just waiting to get nuked, by these things. And I didn't get hit once, and I remember looking over at him, and he just went he just fell face first. It was it was it was the
Get
funniest thing
lit
I've ever.
up.
Oh,
Oh
totally
man.
lit up. But yeah, after that, I didn't do any more tough runners. But I
This
do
is
like
totally
them.
totally unrelated. But one time I was picking weeds near an electric fence at a horse farm that I lived on, and I swear that someone threw a football and hit me square between the eyes with a football. That's where I felt it, and I looked up to see who threw this football at me, and I didn't see a football on the ground, and I didn't see anybody around me. I'm like, what is going on? Like, who threw this football at me? And I realized that as I stood up weeding, I hit my lower back on the fence. I didn't feel it on my lower back. I felt it
And it
between my eyes, and
fired up your
my
third eye.
brain saw a football coming at my face, and
What?
that's where I felt it, like right between the eyes. Yeah, so random.
That
Anyway,
is very interesting. But there was no football to be found,
no
obviously.
football. I was out there all by myself.
Yeah.
Yeah,
One
yeah.
time I was riding my bike, totally tangent, but one time I was riding my bike, and I used to ride my bike, I don't know, 15, 20 miles a day to the bus stop so I could go to work. And I was coming home one time, and I looked down, and all of a sudden there's like this green slime everywhere. And I'm like, come on, like who's shooting paintballs at me, right? And so I get home, and I've changed my tire, and I get home, and I tell my wife, I was like, somebody's shooting paintballs at me or something, because we're right by this school, these kids. It's funny that my mind jumped there, and I had forgotten that I bought self-sealing tires, and it punctured, and it just went everywhere. And then later I was like, yeah, that's funny how your mind will just jump to these kids and they're
Oh
terrible ways.
man.
But
Yeah, when I was we're getting way off track here.
yeah, it's fun.
When I was a snowboard instructor, we'd always take first run just to check the slope out, make sure it was safe before the guests could go up. And one time we're taking the lift up, and there was just blood all over the slopes. I was like, what happened last night? Like, did coyotes come and attack a deer or whatever? Like, all these people from Connecticut and New York are riding the chairlift up, seeing blood all over the slopes, being like, what is going on with this resort? But it turns out that the hydraulic fluid from the groomer broke, and the hydraulic fluid was red, and it just went all over not just like one little spot, but like up and down all the slopes, because they continued to work with the hose leak.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just random stuff like that.
That's a good one.
Never forget the blood in the snow.
Yeah, right. Because then you're like, what am I going to get a shovel? How am I going to clean this up? Not.
So have you ever run a marathon?
I have. I've run multiple marathons. Yeah.
So that's on my life list.
Yeah, do that for sure. That was number 3. I'm gonna skip to number 1, which is music. So I'll start with the precursor of my music. That was funny because you said this. So I think where you're telling your story, you're telling me about the Nike Airs and the Wu-Tang and all these things, which resonate with me because I'm in the same era, same genre, same listening neighborhood. But what I thought was most interesting was something that caught me off guard. I want to dive a little bit deeper. I don't know if it's true, but you told me something along the lines of the only thing your dad ever asked you was don't ask me for money, but he let us listen to whatever we wanted in the house. And so was that legit? Like you could just gangster rap all day long in your bedroom with explicit lyrics, and then where'd that go?
All day long.
No problem.
NWA, Snoop, Wu-Tang.
Don't
Dr.
throw a ball in
Dre,
the house, but you could listen to this dirty music all day long.
Yeah, I mean, he didn't love it. Like, he'd ask me to turn it down, but
Sure.
never asked me to turn it off or never check to see. Like, if back when I was growing up, the only way to access music was to go to the music store and to buy music, the hard CDs or tapes, and you couldn't. The local music stores wouldn't sell explicit lyrics to anyone because there was a label on the front of the album. And my parents would go in with me and buy what I asked. So I grew up on all that stuff. And what's I think really interesting, and this might just be to the power of the positive influences that were around me, but I grew up on mid-90s rap. That's all I listened to. I didn't listen to any other kind of music. And I kind of liked the reputation of being the kid who knew about rap. I would get the Source magazine, and on Tuesdays, the Music Center is this kind of like bootleg mixtape store down in downtown Springfield, Massachusetts, with all the local DJs would submit their tapes, and we'd go and basically just like buy them out of the back of people's cars. Um, yeah, and so that was how I accessed my music, and for whatever reason, as I've shared in past episodes, like I listened for years about people that were spending money on ludicrous stuff like rims and necklaces, that were doing a ton of different drug related activities, that were drinking 40s, and that were disrespecting women. And for whatever reason, none of that stuff stuck with me. Like I wasn't into treating people certain ways, and I wasn't into drinking and smoking and all that stuff, but I just absolutely love the music.
Yeah.
I love the lyrics, I love the rhyme styles, I love the hooks, I love the beats, I love all of it. And I listened to all the new stuff until 2002, 2005-ish, and then I started to really not appreciate the new stuff that was coming out. So I just kind of doubled down on the older stuff that I hadn't heard.
Yeah.
And when I come down to my basement and work out, I have a crate full of CDs, and I still just put them in the boombox and listen to all my old stuff.
That's awesome. What did your parents listen to?
My dad is a super music aficionado. Like anything that comes out from his era, he could tell you the year it came out, who sang it, all this stuff. So
he's
my
like
dad,
Motown, 50s, 60s.
Yep, oldies.
Yep.
Yep, a lot of that stuff. My mom doesn't have a particular musical interest that I know of. Like she just kind of listens to whatever's going on in the room. But I remember growing up in the car, Big D103, the greatest hits of the 60s, 70s, 80s, and today. So that was what I grew up on in the car with my. And then my dad had a record player, and like Don McLean, American Pie, and Jackson Browne, The Loadout.
Yep. Oh and man, that's one of my favorites. I can't believe you just said that
song.
That's a good one.
Yeah. And then my brother is a musician by trade. That's what he does, and he, he just knows so much. It's amazing.
Well, that's his job. Nice work. And to mix in this,
I'm just gonna. Sorry to interrupt.
Nope, you got it.
Without question, the greatest rap album of all time is Wu-Tang Clan 36 Chambers. The first Wu album is the best. And the really, really, really cool thing about being a high school teacher is when I first started high school, I thought I was gonna have to teach students about the golden days of hip hop and the mid 90s rap, but what I'm coming to learn is that many students have parents that are my age, and they know all the stuff. And the kids are, oh, Mr. D, play that Wu-Tang banger in class. And it's just awesome. It's such a really cool way to connect with the kids.
That's pretty cool. Would you play it? Go ahead.
The high schoolers that I teach are very in tune with the music from like what I call good music. They're not just caught up in today's stuff. And, Apple Music and Spotify, it allows them to do that. And I think that's such a cool thing. Sorry, I cut you off. What were you going to say?
No, you don't play that in your, you don't play explicit lyrics in your gym, do you? That's cool.
No, but on YouTube, you can just type in any song you want and then type in the word clean, and you're good to go.
Oh, very nice. I'll remember that. Speaking of so when I think about the music of that era, and you kind of touched on it already, because I'm much the same as you, like for all those reasons in some of those areas, I'm the same as you, but not all of them. But I wonder, through the exposure to that type of music in that era, do you experience the struggles of other people in constructive ways by listening to that music or by contemplating the rhymes or my mind goes to Tupac, like suddenly there's like this deep pool of things that are right at the deep end of struggle, and they come through the music. So I wondered if you ever put those two together.
I mean, let's be honest. I'm a white male, and I try to be aware of that. And listening to the music, I remember Public Enemy was saying, we're just reporters from the streets, and we're just sharing with the world what's happening in our life through our music. And I think that was a good way to open my horizons to see beyond my white suburban neighborhood. There are things happening. I think it opened my mind to a lot of stuff that could be going on in people's worlds that's not going on in my world. And yes, it was entertainment for me, but I also feel like I learned quite a bit. Basically, hip hop music is about the struggle.
Yeah, for sure. This one will be number 4. It's kind of a lightning round. Hope you're ready. Which 4 states have you yet to visit?
I have not been to Hawaii, North Dakota, Arkansas, and Alabama. However, the plane tickets to Hawaii were actually purchased this morning.
What? You see, this is how this works.
My wife, it's her lifelong goal to go to Hawaii and to do a helicopter tour
Sweet.
of the island. So we have saved our money. We haven't traveled in the last 3 years because of COVID, and we are going to Hawaii in June when school gets out.
You mentioned about 1,444 miles across the country on a bicycle.
4,400 miles.
4,000. Because I was going to say 14 is not across the country. So 4,000, that's a little bit further by order of magnitude. What is your preferred mileage on a bicycle per day when you're in training shape?
0.
Okay, that's what I was wondering.
Yeah, I haven't done much bike riding at all since that ride.
Because you went 143 one day, right? Like that was your record, something like that. Yeah.
Yep.
But that was probably too far.
So we did the math and figured if I was going to fly out on the last day of school and get back for the first day of school, we were going to have to average 72 miles a day. So we thought if we did 144 one day, that we'd be able to bank a 0 at some time along the trip. Mm-hmm. And we ended up averaging 90 once we got out of the Rockies. It was just smooth sailing. Yeah. That was a wild trip. But yeah, 4,400 miles in 53 days. We started in San Diego and then went up through the Rockies, obviously, and then out of the Rockies across the plains, and then kind of worked our way up through Ohio, Pennsylvania, New York, that way. We ended up going through Niagara. So we basically started in Mexico and went through Canada as well on that trip. And the goal, my buddy might disagree with this, but the goal was not to enjoy the trip. The goal was not to soak up the experience. The goal was not to meet people and have a good time. The goal was to ride our bicycles unsupported. So those that don't know what that means is that we didn't have a van carrying our stuff. Like we carried all our stuff to ride our bicycles from the Pacific Ocean to the Atlantic Ocean in the summer. And yeah, we did it. We would just ride until the sun went down, and then we just sleep on the side of the road and get up and do it again. And I think the really interesting part about that bike ride, I learned that waking up and pedaling every day is so simple. It's such a simple thing. I didn't have to worry about anything else. I didn't have to balance finances. I didn't have to worry about relationships. I didn't have to worry about anything in my life other than just waking up and pedaling. And simple does not mean easy, but I love to go all in on stuff. And I think as humans, our greatest strength is also our greatest weakness. And I tend to be all or nothing, and that's good in many, many ways and doesn't serve me great in other ways. But for that bike ride, it was awesome. And I hope that my daughter wants to go on adventures like that when she's a little bit older so we can do that kind of thing.
That's cool. That's a lot of miles on a bike. One time you talked about your competitive nature and how deep that runs. How has that led you to challenges in a negative way?
My relationship with competition is not always healthy. An example of that is every year where I spend the summer in Groton Long Point, Connecticut, there's what they call a fun run. It's a 5K length race on July 4th where the community kind of gathers on the seashore and kids come out, grandparents, everybody of all ages comes out to do this fun run. And oftentimes you bring a can or a couple cans to donate at the starting line for the local food shelf. And this is not a race at all. This is just a gathering of people who want to run. And for about 10 years, I prepared for this race and I'd go and race. And my brothers would run, my friends would run, we'd all run. And I put so much pressure on myself to perform in this race that it was anything but a fun run for me. The preparation that I put into it, the night before, everyone gathers and has a barbecue or pizza, and I would just like eat totally clean and not indulge in the good tasting food that a July 4th celebration could bring. I wouldn't sleep because I'd be nervous. And nobody else knew all this stuff that I had going on inside my mind about this silly little race that I took so serious. And it was always my goal to get in the top 3. And I'm going against like Ivy League runners of people that would just absolutely dust me, that would finish, and I couldn't even see them finish. They were so far ahead of me. And I still took it that serious. So I compete the fun right out of a lot of stuff. And this is just an example of how my relationship with competition is not healthy. And I've had many examples in my life where I took a fun run or a silly competition or just a thing that was supposed to be fun and trained for it so hard and competed so hard that I actually ended up injuring myself. I've had so many nagging injuries over the last 10 years because of my borderline irresponsible relationship with competition. Competition has put me in a bad place mentally and physically many times. Like, how and why are we wired where competition is such an important thing? Like, right? Like, entire nations get behind their football, soccer, but football teams. Or, my buddy says, you're rooting for laundry, right? You have a team that you like. And when a player is wearing your team's jersey, you love him. And then when he's traded and he goes plays for somewhere else, nothing's changed except the color of his jersey and the team he plays for. And now you hate him. So, you're just rooting for laundry.
Fair point.
And it's such a fascinating topic for me. But competition for me, I can't quite put a finger on why it's such a relevant part of my life. Why the thirst for competition and the competitive drive has not waned even a little bit for me over time. I can't really explain it other than I've learned that when I'm not training for something or preparing for something, my life doesn't feel as purposeful or fulfilled. For me, the difference between training and exercise is exercise. We do it because we know it's good for us and we enjoy it. And we like to move and we sweat and we feel good during and after. But training is you're preparing for an event that is happening at a specific time. And I much prefer training to exercising.
Huh. That could be an entire topic. Let's not side road.
I love competing. So I had this conversation with my friends the other day. What's more important, beating the other competitors or not losing? Winning or not losing? And I learned that for me, I don't really care if I win. I don't want to say that I'm the best. That's not important to me. I just don't want to lose.
But
and
isn't that the same?
Like you have to beat everybody to win. Conversation about this.
Yeah,
this
right.
hour-long conversation about this. My buddy and I said they're two very different things. My other buddy said they're the exact same, and we didn't really get anywhere with the conversation. But for me, there's a stark difference. Like, I just don't want to lose. I don't want to say that I'm. So here it is. I don't care to be the champion. I don't care to say that I'm the best. But I don't want to look around and know that anybody beat me.
Wow. Yeah,
does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense, but only in your mind. Yeah, that's an interesting one because I look at that completely different. But yeah, we'll do.
And when it comes to physical competition, I've hurt myself so many times.
Yeah, that's where I was going to go. Like, at what cost, right? That was the.
It's at a big cost. A big cost. But like,
potentially, right? Yeah, right.
But like, I'm one of 3 boys, and if I were to go into a running race with my brothers, like, you would literally have to peel my body off the pavement before I'd let my brothers beat me in a race.
That's so interesting. This is the last one. Are you ready?
Wait, no, I'm not ready.
Okay.
Where does competition stand in your life? How do you face or
it's very
incorporated into your world?
Yeah, it's very funny. In my mind, it's not a thing. But
it's not a thing. But you tell me you want to run 26 half marathons in 26
weeks. It's only against myself. Like,
okay, so that's still competition.
No, it's not competition. It's achievement. I see it as achievement.
Yeah. Okay.
Right.
Okay.
So it's different. Like, I don't have I prefer not to. I prefer to do solo sports. So I want to run, but people are like, oh, we'll come see you at the finish line. I'm like, no, stay away. Like, I have to do it myself. Like, I just want to be on my own when I do this thing. So that's the difference.
I'm the exact opposite.
Yeah. But in CrossFit, a lot of the nuances of my character, I guess you would say, have been uncovered by other people's perspectives. And this one happened at CrossFit. I love burpees and that guy loves handstand push-ups, but it's the exact flip, right? So he knows that he can excel at handstand push-ups and I know that I'm going to smoke him on the burpees. So there becomes like this competitive nature to see who can maintain that equilibrium to get through it at the same point in time where you're overcoming. It's not that I want to beat him. It's just that I want to be good enough to be up to his level or that person's level in order to maintain that threshold.
So my wife does CrossFit and we have friends come over and do workouts with us. Not as much during COVID, but she doesn't really care about the competitive piece, but she wants to hang with them as well. Mm-hmm. And she knows that working out with her friends enhances her fitness and makes her better. So
same. Yeah. It's along those lines, right? Like, the people who you can work, you're very close to, and they will push you or you can push them. So I think it's the same.
I'm going to drop the ball on this, but there's a a quote or a phenomenon that's like, it's like the 1/3 rule. Like we as humans compare ourselves to the people that are within like the same third as us. So think of yourself in like the middle third of 100%. So like,
Mm-hmm.
whatever, you're somewhere in between 33 and 66%. We don't compare the people that are in the 1 to 33% because
Yeah. Right.
they're not in our league, so to speak.
Yep.
And the people that are in the 66 to 100 are not in our league either. Like, yeah, I like to play basketball, but I don't compare myself to LeBron
Yeah.
James.
Like
But I
I could
also
care
don't
less.
compare myself. Yeah, but I also don't compare myself to the kindergartners that are in
Yeah.
my PE class. And I think that's an interesting phenomenon. So if you're working out with people who are in the same 1/3 as you can kind of use that for however
Yeah.
you want it.
You can
Yeah.
use it as fuel, right? Like
Yeah.
that's how I look at it. Because if you
But
ever
I'm
heard of that?
competitive like that in any way. Like back when I had a bad temper, I threw a Nintendo controller right through the console.
Oof. Yeah.
I used to flip tables when I'd lose board games as
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
kid.
Yeah.
Like I've come a long way with that stuff, but yeah, it still lingers in there.
Interesting.
Uh, I'm there's no gray. It's either fun and I don't take it serious, but once I flip the switch, there's no going back. And
Yeah.
I flip the switch a lot less often now than I did when I was younger.
Oh, good
I have
job.
more control over when I decide to flip that switch.
But you do decide to flip it. It's not like the switch is sometimes on auto. You actually make the
I'm to the point now where I can control that.
good job.
That wasn't always the case.
Interesting. Yeah, we can cover that in the other one. The next one I have is the difference between the United States teaching and teaching in Vietnam. What have you learned between those two things?
I'll just give you one anecdote difference between teaching in the U.S. and teaching in Vietnam. In the U.S., if there's an issue between two kids in the class, the school has to contact the family separately, and you can't use the name of the other kid that was involved. You just say, your son or daughter was involved in an altercation today, and this is what your son or daughter did. And then the other family gets the same correspondence, and you would never bring the two together as an administrator or teacher, at least in my experience working in Vermont. When I was teaching in Vietnam, there was one student who kept frustrating another student. So the father came into the school and he said, I want to meet with that student and his father. And we set up a meeting. So each kid and their parent came in. I was in there and the principal was in there. And the principal and I just sat quietly. And these two families just worked through it. And the father looked at the other kid, not his own son, but the other kid that was frustrating his son. And he looked at the kid in the eye and he pointed at him and he said, why do you keep doing this to my son? To a first grader. He's saying this to a first grader. Why do you keep stealing his Legos? Why do you keep frustrating him? Why do you keep treating him this way? And the first grader had no answer. And after that meeting, there was no issues. And I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but it was just different. Like we're all going to come in and the families are going to get in a room together and are going to work through it. Whereas that would never happen here.
Interesting. Yeah, it's that go back to the beginning, right? You lean into the thing. You're going to find an answer in there somewhere. It might not be the most productive, but
So, yeah, the biggest challenge is getting, just like you just said, is getting the kids to connect with something. And I'd prefer that they connect with other humans, but because I can help with that.
yeah,
And we play games and we do activities and we have conversations where I'm trying to get the kids just to connect with one another. But we can also connect with nature. We can connect with our pets. There's different ways that we can connect. But with the phone as the barrier, it's much harder for kids to connect now than ever before.
yeah.
So that is the biggest challenge.
How do you feel like that's working? You had a different split, right? Between you only been at the high school for a couple of years now. How long's it been? 3 or 4?
Yeah, this is my 4th year. Now, every kid is just on their phone. So like that kid could be very engaged, but no one's going to go talk to them because they're really engaged with their phone. And it's just really, really an isolating thing. And the kids that don't have any friends can just pull their phone out and it looks like they're doing something. So like for us, if we had a beef or we had an issue, when we walked away from each other, it would kind of settle. And now they walk away from each other and they get online and it just keeps going.
Ooh,
it never
good point.
ends.
I
And
never even
then other people
thought
get
of that.
involved and it just doesn't, they don't get a chance to get away from it, which is a
Yeah.
bummer.
Are there a lot of fights still at school? Physical fights?
No, not where I am.
Huh.
No.
Were there?
No,
No,
I've had a few, but no, not where I am. It's not.
but not like when you were a kid in school. Like we used to fight all the time.
Oh,
I
when
mean,
was in
not all the
school-
time,
Yeah,
but-
yeah. When I was in school, yeah, there was a couple a month,
Yeah, right.
but now there's maybe a couple a year, if that. And yeah, I guess with the advent of the smartphone, like the incidents of that have proven to drop off like dramatically, like because kids are not out with each other anymore; they're just home in their room. So then the depression, the anxiety, and
Yeah,
all that
right.
stuff is way up.
That's the thing.
But like Parties in the Woods is down.
Yeah, right. We don't need Peter to drive us home anymore. We're not even going to the woods. It's
Yeah,
fine.
exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
It's great. Yeah. Oh, yeah. We could go off for days on that. But anyways,
I
yeah,
love these Monday night conversations. Thank you.
they're
I
the
love
best. I love them too. It's so funny.
it. So good.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
could do this for hours.
Me
Legitimately
too.
hours.
Hours.
So,
Hours. Good, good.
yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for those topics and for jogging my brain on some stuff. And I just love to get your perspective on stuff too. So I'm looking forward to doing kind of a reverse version of this.
Oh yeah, please do. Yeah, thank you for being a good sport and allowing my frantic mind to take over the console today. That's fun for me.
Absolutely. Well, have an awesome vacation.
Yeah, thanks. I'm going
And to all y'all out there, thank you for your ears. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your attention. And we are out.
Yeah. Peace. See ya.
My relationship with competition is not always healthy. An example of that is every year where I spend the summer in Groton Long Point, Connecticut, there's what they call a fun run. It's a 5K length race on July 4th where the community kind of gathers on the seashore and kids come out, grandparents, everybody of all ages comes out to do this fun run. And oftentimes you bring a can or a couple cans to donate at the starting line for the local food shelf. And this is not a race at all. This is just a gathering of people who want to run. And for about 10 years, I prepared for this race and I'd go and race. And my brothers would run, my friends would run, we'd all run. And I put so much pressure on myself to perform in this race that it was anything but a fun run for me. The preparation that I put into it, the night before, everyone gathers and has a barbecue or pizza, and I would just like eat totally clean and not indulge in the good tasting food that a July 4th celebration could bring. I wouldn't sleep because I'd be nervous. And nobody else knew all this stuff that I had going on inside my mind about this silly little race that I took so serious. And it was always my goal to get in the top 3. And I'm going against like Ivy League runners of people that would just absolutely dust me, that would finish, and I couldn't even see them finish. They were so far ahead of me. And I still took it that serious. So I compete the fun right out of a lot of stuff. And this is just an example of how my relationship with competition is not healthy. And I've had many examples in my life where I took a fun run or a silly competition or just a thing that was supposed to be fun and trained for it so hard and competed so hard that I actually ended up injuring myself. I've had so many nagging injuries over the last 10 years because of my borderline irresponsible relationship with competition. Competition has put me in a bad place mentally and physically many times. However, my life feels much more fulfilled when I'm engaged in some sort of preparation for a competition.